Alright, let's see. What's today? Oh, today is May. That's what today is. The supposed non-players of power, recognizing toxic types and disguised power strategies. Power is a social game. To learn and master it, you must develop the ability to study and understand people. As the great 17th century thinker and courtier Balthasar Gracian wrote, most people spend time studying the properties of animals or herbs. How much more important it would be to study those of people with whom we must live and or die. To be the master, you must also be a master psychologist. You must recognize motivation and see through the cloud of dust with which people surround their actions. Smart dust. Some people, for instance, believe they can opt out of the game by behaving in ways that have nothing to do with power. You must beware of such people, for while they express such opinions outwardly, they are often among the most adept players at power. They are what I call supposed non-players. They utilize strategies that cleverly disguise the nature of the manipulation involved. The month of May will teach you how to recognize the supposed non-players and other toxic types you want to try to keep distance from. Right? Oh, good grief, there's a whole lot to read. Go for it. I once counted that I had some 60 different jobs before I wrote the 48 Laws of Power. I tried a lot of different things, and in those experiences, I saw every kind of power-hungry person you could imagine, every kind of manipulator that is out there. I saw their maneuvers, and I saw how they thought. And then I began working in Hollywood as an assistant to various directors. That's where I started to see some particularly hardcore Machiavellian tactics used on actors and producers, and I'd think, wow, that reminds me of Caesar Borgia in the Renaissance. That reminds me of Napoleon. That reminds me of what Napoleon did. That reminds me of that line from Grecian. I was building up this catalog of experiences. I didn't know what would come of it. Then when I was 36, I was working yet another job in Italy. And one day, one of my colleagues on this job, a book packager and designer named Joost Elfers, asked me out of the blue if I had any ideas for a book, any ideas for a book. Interested in the prospect, I improvised several ideas, one of which would turn into the 48 Laws of Power. I told Joost that, in my experience, power has not changed. We live in a very politically correct world where film directors and producers project the image of being the nicest, most liberal, most progressive people on the planet, but behind closed doors, they turn into raging manipulators who would do anything to get exactly what they want. Power is limitless. People may not be beheaded for making mistakes. Instead, they'll be summarily fired. Law 1 in the 48 Laws of Power, for instance, is never outshine the master. In the old days, Nicolas Fouquet outshone Louis XIV, and he was thrown in prison for the rest of his life. Now, you're simply let go without knowing why. It's just a different form of punishment. The game is the same. There are 3 types of people in the world in dealing with this game. There are what I call the deniers, the people who deny this reality exists. They almost want to pretend that we are descended from angels and not from primates. They imagine that what I am talking about here is just cynical. These laws don't really exist. These hardcore tactics may be used, but only by the rarest and least moral people out there. Among these deniers, you will find 2 types. You will find people who are genuinely disturbed by the politicking aspect of human nature. They don't want any kind of job in which they have to do that because they refuse to understand the game. They find themselves slowly marginalized. They are fine with such a fate. They are never going to assume positions that are greater. They're never going to assume a position of great responsibility anyway because it involves all this game playing, and that's okay. The other branch of the deniers are the people that are passive aggressors, those who constantly don't want to admit that they are ever engaged in manipulation, but unconsciously are playing all kinds of games. In several of my books, I describe the many different varieties of these passive-aggressive warriors. These types, the supposed non-players, are of the most slippery and dangerous of all. The second type of person besides the deniers are those who love this Machiavellian part of our nature and revel in it. They are master manipulators, con artists, and outright aggressors. They have no problem handling this part of the game. In fact, they love it. This type of person, which usually you will find one or two in any officer group, can get pretty far, but eventually they are tripped up in life because they are too Machiavellian. They don't understand that there is a whole other side to the game which requires empathy, cooperation, and seducing people into working with you. They are too tied to their egos to see the limits of the games they are playing, and so they inevitably go too far and experience a fall from power. There is a wall they can never get past. The third type is what I call the radical realists. This is what I'm promulgating in my books, and it goes as follows. The desire for power is part of our nature. It is part of how we evolve over millions of years. There is no point in denying our nature. It is who we are. And not only are we not going to deny it, but we're going to accept that this is the human being that we are and the product of evolution. There is nothing wrong with the fact that this is the world people are playing, that in this world people are playing political games. There is nothing wrong with the fact that there are seducers and con artists. It is the human comedy, since it has been the human comedy since the beginning of recorded history. It is just reality, the world as it is. Let's stop fighting it. With such acceptance, it is not that we love it and want to go outside in the world and play all these nasty games. It is that we understand they exist. If occasionally we have to use the laws in playing offense or defense, we're okay with that within reason. Most often it is the case that other people are practicing them on us, and it is better to understand what they're up to than to live in a dream world of our own angelic nature. And so, understand the laws of power. We understand that people are, I'll start again. And so we understand the laws of power. We understand what people are up to, so they can't easily hurt us. We learn how to recognize and advance the truly toxic. We learn how to recognize in advance the truly toxic narcissists, aggressors, and passive aggressors, the non-players, before getting too emotionally enmeshed in their dramas. And armed with such an attitude and with such knowledge, we are prepared to go into battle in the game of life. Instead of being blindsided by the manipulators, we have calmness, power, and the freedom that comes with awareness of the laws. That's the intro for this month. Now for day 1 of May. Daily law. Everyone is a player in the game. Lord Chesterfield, that's who this quote is from. Courts are unquestionably the seats of politeness and good breeding. Were they not so, they would be the seats of slaughter and desolation. Those who now smile upon and embrace would affront and stab each other if maneuvers did not interpose. If you recognize supposed non-players by the way they flaunt their moral qualities, their pieties, their exquisite sense of justice, but since all of us are hungry for power and almost all of our actions are aimed at getting it, the non-players are merely throwing dust in our eyes, distracting us from their power plays. If you observe them closely, you will see, in fact, that they are often the ones most skillful at indirect manipulation, even if some of them practice it unconsciously, and they greatly resent any publicizing of the tactics that they use every day. Daily law, the world is like a giant scheming court, and we are all trapped inside it. There is no opting out of the game. Everyone is playing. That's from the 48 Laws of Power, the preface. That book is so good. I should really put that one back in my backpack. Start reading that. What do I have in there right now? I think the 33 Strategies of War. But I think the 48 Laws one is a much better one to go over again. Oh no, my Drake fell. Alright, hit the road. Let's go. Yep, everybody's playing power games. It's true, really. I mean, even in an average conversation, there's going to be somebody who's like wants to be in control of the flow of the dialogue, I guess you could say. That in itself is a power game. I don't know how I manifest these things. I'm opinionated, and since I read a lot of stuff like this, I have a lot of opinions when it comes to certain things, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? I had a bunch of dreams last night. I took a melatonin before I went to bed. I don't remember most of them. I know one of them. I was like, I don't know where I might have been. It seemed like almost it was like some sort of, might have been like a job of some sort that I was working at. Certainly not the job I'm at now. But there was like these, I don't know how to describe them. There was like these how do I describe this? It's almost like trays, but like almost like, let's just say that they were like muffin trays for baking muffins that you could like stack into each other. You know, once you're done, you put them away. Say you stack like a whole bunch of them on, and they kind of fit into each other. They were black and they seemed like they were made of plastic, but they were heavy, and there was a whole huge stack of them. And they had to go on the top of the shelf, but you had to climb to the top of the shelf to get to it. And people were trying to like throw it up there and like just try to get up there on the top shelf without having to like actually climb and do the work that it takes to get it up there. But it kept falling down, and from what I remember, it seemed like I was kind of like watching people try to do it, and it just wasn't working out. And I'm like, give me that. So I grabbed the whole stack and I started to climb, and it was like these doors. The doors, there was like, what I was climbing up were like maybe like these cubbies, and the front of the cubbies had like a door that opened up that was made of like wire, almost like a cage kind of. And as I'm climbing up, holding this huge stack, it maybe felt like the stack was at least 3 feet high. So it was a pretty good stack, and it was heavy. I remember feeling like it's heavy. So with one hand, I had to hold this stack of whatever the heck they were. I remember they were black, but it looked like they were made like out of plastic. I don't know what the heck it was. So I'm climbing, and all of a sudden, like, one of the doors like wasn't latched shut. So when I went to climb, like, the doors like swung open with me on it. I'm like, oh man! And I could hear people down on the ground like saying stuff like that, like, oh. And I'm holding on, I'm still hanging in there, and I make it my way somehow to the very top, and I'm holding on to the top with one hand. I'm like, how the heck am I going to get this stack of stuff up there without it falling back down? I'm like, if it all falls back down, what a waste of time this is. So I kind of finally positioned my hand somehow underneath, while holding this stack underneath it, to like the bottom of it, so I could at least try and like hoist it up there, like kind of like a short throw at least. But in my mind, I'm thinking, once I do this though, there's a chance all this stuff's gonna come apart. I'm envisioning like hoisting it up there, and then in one motion, like kind of setting it down onto the top of the shelf so it doesn't like bounce off and fall down, or like slide off and fall down. So I do it, and it works. The dream worked out. Whatever the heck that weird dream was. Whatever I was trying to do, I was able to do. I don't know if that's a metaphor. Hopefully, because that worked out. That's a metaphor for life. It all works out in the end. My woman told me when I first met her. It was the weirdest thing too. I didn't know what it meant. And I think if I remember correctly, when she said it, I asked her, like, what do you mean? And she didn't really answer. She just left it kind of vague like that. But that always stuck with me, that she said that. It all works out in the end. And so far, as wild as this little ride I've been on with her is, like, there's been different phases of it. There was the car phase. She knows what I'm talking about. There was the rescue phase. And let's see what else. What other phases has there been? There was phase 1 of the job I'm going to now. And then there was the pandemic phase. And now there's phase 2. But it's in the end, she's kind of right. After each part of every phase, it's all seemed to have worked out pretty well. Well, that's interesting. They put a whole, like, barrier here. This wasn't here before. I wonder why. Like, on the side, that it gets much closer to the side of the lane I'm in right now. But you can see on the other side of what they put up, there's a secondary barrier, there's pylons right there. I don't know. Interesting. I don't know. Who knows? Actually, no, the better book to read on this whole, like, power games, really, even though that came from the 48 Laws of Power, is because he talks about the court, the French court, and the art of manipulation. That all really has to do with the art of seduction. So that's the book I should be reading right now. Because the social structure of that day, it was all about power. So even though that ended up in that 48 Laws of Power, that's where the source material came from. Is like those subtle arts of manipulation is all seduction tactics. And that whole section that I was reading about, like, his experience in Hollywood, that really is nothing more than the architecture of the French court. Having to say and do the right things around the right people in order to gain, curry favor, I believe is the term. I guess I would fall into the category of the people that don't really want to have to play the game, but know the game exists. And I don't play it until absolutely necessary. Other than that, I'm really not trying to like climb any kind of like social ladder, or like even like the context of like, what is it? the work ladder, I guess, like the position at work. I'm not trying to be a manager, a supervisor, or a boss. Really, what I'm trying to do is build my own thing. I don't want to be a part of someone else's thing. I want something all to myself. So I guess in that respect, I'm trying to be a boss, like my own boss. I don't want to be somebody else's boss. I don't get anything out of that, like lording over people. What I do really enjoy is inspiring improvement in others, if I can do that. That's really why I'm building what I'm building with these training courses. I like the dog aspect of it. That'll always be part of it somehow. What I should probably do is like film like a mock like infomercial, kind of like almost making fun of infomercials, but with the actual serious intent of like introducing this course to people who want to be a part of it. And I have a whole list of things that I could start doing, which I need to start doing. I don't know how many of them are like absolutely necessary. Because it talks about like trademarking the brand and all that stuff. I should actually probably do that. That does cost a little bit of money to do to get a registered trademark. They say you could just start like just putting a little TM, like a little trademark logo next to the stuff that you put out, but it's not registered yet. But you can start using it without actually having it being officially registered on paper. My woman loves that phrase, on paper. So I should probably start adding that to anything I put out with I lead my pack. That seems like that's probably going to be what I call it. It's like the idea of that. It works both ways. It applies to dogs and humans. And then I woke up this morning. I told my woman I had like a bunch of dreams, but I couldn't remember most of them, except for that one. I don't know what the other ones were. I even woke up from one too. Damn it! I don't even remember what that one was. Because one I do remember was like one I had in the middle of the night. Just kind of woke up. Still had a long ways to go before I had to get up. But when my alarm woke me up, it was right in the middle of it. It was actually no. It felt like actually like the dream was ending. It was like almost like the dream was a movie, and I knew the dream was coming to an end. And it kind of did right at the moment that my alarm went off, which was kind of weird. But as soon as my alarm went off, it was gone. Zero memory of what it was. That's kind of funny too. That what I read, my mind's kind of all over the place right now. It's kind of funny that what I read, it mentioned dust. So I was telling people about smart dust yesterday. They're like, "What's that?" So I show them, and then I tell them, "Guess who has the primary patent on this technology?" And they're like, "Who?" I said, "There's a bunch of different people who have patents related to it, but the primary patent is owned by Wells Fargo." They're like, "What? Why would a banking company have a patent on the technology applied towards gathering biometric data?" And I was like, "Oh, good question. Yeah, you should probably put some deep thought into that." I'll just leave it at that. I'm not doing the legwork. You guys are gonna have to think about this on your own. I can only walk you through so much. It's better if you figure it out on your own. It's more impactful that way. But that is quite the question. Why would a banking company be interested in biometric data collection in the form of a technology called smart dust? I think that's just like the layman kind of term they use for it. There's probably a way more technical term than smart dust. But it's wild if you read about what it is. And I remember too, because then there's all kinds of crazy tinfoil speculation on if this has already been deployed, which I think it has. Because I do remember one morning, and this is me just probably remembering something that has nothing to do with it, but it did conjure up this memory. I remember going to work one day and leaving the house, and there was the weirdest fog over, just blanketing everything. This was not a dream. This was in real life, IRL. And I remember thinking it was weird because it didn't look like normal fog, because you could see like particles in the air. And normally I've walked through low fog cover before, and it's never looked like that before. It actually looked like dust in the air, like dust. Because I can remember seeing like in the street light as I walked to the gate to get into my car, that you could see like the individual little grains in the air, like the little whatever the heck it was. I just thought it was fog. I never gave much thought about it really until I read this article about smart dust and how the smart dust works. Is like it's an electronic data gathering technology, but it requires there's somehow, and this is way beyond my knowledge of technological advancement, but somehow it's electronic, which means it needs power, but it has no battery. It's like self-powered somehow, and it's capable of gathering information and storing information and relaying information to who knows where. I don't know how these things work, because it gave me, when I looked it up, I only got the most general of descriptions of how it works. And that's what it said. Like, it doesn't require any kind of battery source, but yet it's electronic in nature. So it is powered somehow. But of course, they don't say that. They don't go into intricate detail as to how. I'm not going to give away the secret recipe. But they are going to let you know the recipe exists. Here is the dish. The ingredients are secret. That's how it works. You better get over, sir, because you are coming up on a truck that is moving very slow. All of you are driving and now I'm blocked in. Come on. See, normally the madman in me would have mashed on the gas and shot through the hole that was right between those two cars right there, jumped into that lane 2 lanes over, and I would have been gone. I don't like being blocked in like this. I get anxiety, and feels like I need to get out real quick, like I'm trapped. I don't like the feeling of being trapped, and I'm so impulsive. I've been known to do some wild maneuvers in a car. I know what I'm doing. I'm safe. It may look out of control from the outside, but I am 100% in control when I do stuff like that. It's just I don't like doing stuff like that either, because I like doing stuff like that and then it becomes addicting and I'll want to do it again. So I just try to stay in the slow lanes as much as possible. Just let that anxiety ebb away like I just did right now. I probably would have made a good fighter pilot with this kind of mentality. Evasive maneuvers are require quick decision making. But only when I'm wide awake. If I'm tired, it's terrible. Like yesterday, made a turn. I thought there was a 4-way stop, made a turn right in front of somebody. They're all honking at me. I was so tired. I probably shouldn't have been driving. But we had to do some after work runs to the stores and stuff. And that's what happens when I'm tired. I don't make the best decisions. But really, like after work, my tiredness hits right when I get home. Like on the drive home from work, I'm like amped up to get home. So like my adrenaline is like pumping. But once I get home, it just like an adrenaline dump is like normally preceded by the opposite effect. It's like the tiredness just hits. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and that goes for every mechanism in the body. So when you get amped up with adrenaline, just know that the opposite effect is coming. That's really what the as above, so below law can be applied to also. Because there's a swing of a pendulum. If you can visually imagine that, like in your mind, that is always in motion. Sometimes the pendulum's swinging, slight swings back and forth. But when there's a heavy swing to one side, like in the case of like a huge adrenaline rush, that swing has to go to the equal opposite end. And that is a law, a universal law that is always in play. The grand scale example of that is life in general. Life itself is one swing of the pendulum to one extreme side of experience. The other end, the backswing, would be whatever death is, whatever that experience is. That's the grand scheme scale of the law of correspondence. That's where as above, so below comes from. And that's where the visualization of the pendulum comes into play. That's where all thought emanating from the idea of duality. That's where that comes from. Like the dual nature of things. That's all from the law of correspondence. I should read the intro to the Kybalion. It's just a small paragraph, but it gives you a good idea of. It says stuff like all truths are half-truths, and all truths are half false. There's a whole like paragraph of saying like stuff like that gives you a good idea of. Maybe I'll pull that out right now before I end this. It's a quick little read. Because I am almost there. My exit is coming. And I have exited safely. I think I'm getting that right with the law of correspondence. We'll see right now. See how good my memory is. Oh, the fake cop cars are gone. Interesting. I wonder what they're going to do with those or why they're around. They've been there for seems like weeks. Now they are gone. They're not fake, they're actually real ones, but someone bought 2 SUVs from the LAPD. When they were retire vehicles, they auction them off. So anybody can buy one. My buddy bought one. I already told this story a while ago. He bought a cop car, but you're supposed to cover up all the symbols, and you can't have it looking like a cop car. But he didn't. He came to work flying in a cop car. I'm like, what the heck? Where'd you get this? Got it at an auction. That was hilarious. Yeah, you have to cover the lights on top. And you can't have those LAPD symbols all over the car, the one on the door and stuff like that. You're supposed to cover it. Oh, my ex-boss has one too, at a rescue. But he has a big he has a big magnet that says movie car that he puts over the symbol on the door. Of course, it's not a movie car, but this guy's pretty smart. All right, let's read this real quick. Let's see if I got this right, because I'm curious. Let's see. No, I think I got it wrong. Let's see which one it is. Hold on. Now I'm curious. Oh, that's what it is. It's the principle of polarity. Polarity. That's what it is. Hold on. Oh, that's funny. That's the one I'm on. It has my card in it. Polarity. Everything is dual. Everything has poles. Everything has its pairs of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but half truths. All paradoxes may be reconciled. Yep. I'll read the first paragraph. The great fourth Hermetic principle, the principle of polarity, embodies the truth that all manifested things have two sides, two aspects, two poles, a pair of opposites, with manifold degrees between the two extremes. The old paradoxes which have ever perplexed the minds of men are explained by the understanding of this principle. Man has always recognized something akin to this principle and has endeavored to express it by such sayings, maxims, and aphorisms as the following. Everything is and isn't at the same time. All truths are but half-truths. Every truth is half false. There are two sides to everything. There's a reverse side to every shield, etc., etc. That is the law of polarity. That's where that one comes from. But the law of correspondence is where as above, so below comes from. And it kind of applies too, but the law of polarity is what really works in that degree or that aspect. All right, I'm here, ready to go to work.